Hey again, it's David Moyer. I'm a local real estate agent here in Dayton, Ohio, and I want to know how your summer's going. It's August already here in Dayton. Things seem to be winding down, or so you think. The inventory is low, but there are a lot of opportunities out there. This video is for you whether you're a buyer, a seller, or maybe just curious about what the market's doing, and we're going to dive into it, so stay tuned. Be sure you like, comment, or subscribe, and follow me, and let's talk real estate here in Dayton, Ohio. Okay, so first off, let's dive into the numbers, the facts. Right now in the entire Greater Dayton area, this includes Dayton Metro, it also includes all the suburbs out there. If we average out all of the homes that have sold, the median sale price right now is around $245,000. That's a little bit up than it has been over the past couple of years because we are seeing the inventory remain at low levels. The inventory right now has an absorption rate of about 1.3 months. And what is an absorption rate? We've talked about this before, but let's dive into it really quick. Absorption rate essentially means all the properties that have sold, if we had no more new listings coming onto the market, based off the way these properties are selling, how long would it take to go through the entire inventory? And right now that's around 1.3. That's a low number. In a typical, stable, normal market, let's say pre-pandemic, pre-2020, the average absorption rate would be closer to 3 or 4, and that's the average. So when you see interest rates move, when you see things shift, that can change the absorption rate, but right now we're hanging around 1.3. Also, speaking of interest rates, that's everyone's favorite topic. The interest rates right now are hovering right around 6.75 to 7, maybe even 7.25, depending on the type of financing and what your qualifications are. These are also average interest rates. For those of you that are waiting around for an interest rate to drop, what happens when these things drop? Well, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So stay tuned for the next segment. So what does all this mean if you're a buyer looking to purchase in the 2025 market? It means that with this low inventory, things are still moving at a very rapid rate. And that is important to know as you go into looking for a property. First of all, you should be working with a qualified licensed real estate expert that also specializes in working with buyers, especially first-time home buyers. If you're looking at a price point in the Greater Dayton area that is $300,000, maybe even $350,000 or below, that is our fastest moving price point. Those are the entry-level price points for a lot of our first-time home buyers looking to get out of their rental situation into home ownership, the American dream. So if you're in that price point, the competition is going to remain extremely high. And that also means before you go out there, before you meet with that realtor, and before you start looking at properties, you better get pre-approved. And why do you have to get pre-approved before you go out and look at these properties? Because in the event you come across that home that you want to take a look at and that you want to write an offer on, there could potentially be a ton of competition. You could find yourself out there on day 3, 4, 5, or even 6 and say, well, we'd like to write an offer. That agent calls the listing agent and says, hey, we're going to submit an offer on your listing. And the listing agent says, we already have 3 or 4 other offers, or we have 3 or 4 other offers coming in. So you're going to have competition. And if you don't have that pre-approval, it's going to weaken your offer no matter what the terms are that you write in there, because the seller wants to see that you're qualified. Now, we also talked about the interest rate game. This is something that buyers look at all the time. They watch the national headlines and they say, I really want to do this, but what if the rates drop next month? What if they drop this winter? Should I really go ahead and make that purchase? Well, first of all, that home that you fell in love with may not be here months down the road, and that interest rate that is hovering around 6.75, 7%, 7.25, let's say that adjusts by half a percentage point. That's a pretty significant jump. If it does drop, and the big thing is if, according to the National Association of Realtors, that makes home ownership more affordable for 5.5 million households out there. So if your competition is already steep and you're waiting on that interest rate drop, now you're going to have 5.5 million people competing for that house. Well, maybe not for that house, but you know what I'm getting at. You're going to have more competition. And what happens when there's more competition? Well, look at what happened in 2020. A home that could have been listed for $275,000 eventually sold for over $300,000 because there were so many buyers competing for that property because the interest rates were so low. So if you're waiting on that interest rate drop because you think it's going to save you $20, $50, maybe even $100 a month on that monthly mortgage, Guess what happens? You have more competition, that price goes up, now you're paying more for the same house with a lower interest rate, and it ends up being the same payment that you would make now if you went ahead and made that purchase. So just some things to think about. Now let's move on to what this means for our sellers that are out there, maybe waiting on the fence, still considering selling their homes, or maybe you've made a purchase this summer and now it's time to sell your property so that you can complete the transaction. It's a seller's market, right? Doesn't mean you take your foot off the pedal. Those buyers that are out there are still looking for the updates that they would have been looking at regardless. They're still looking at things such as curb appeal, updated kitchens and bathrooms, updated roofs, updated HVAC systems, and for those of you that haven't bought a home before, that's your furnace and air conditioning, and an updated water heater. Those are things that make it easy for the buyer to write you a reasonable offer to get into your property because they know there's nothing they have to necessarily spend on the back end once they move in. So don't take your foot off the pedal. Also, just because it's a seller's market doesn't mean if your realtor comes out and says your home comps at $350,000 that you should list it at $375,000 to give yourself that wiggle room. Those buyers, they will walk right past your home and not even consider the property because they feel it's overpriced and they're not looking to negotiate currently compared to other properties that are maybe priced right. I always tell my sellers, at the end of the day, if the comps say you're listed at $350,000 and you list at $375,000, automatically your day on market is going to go up because it's going to take longer for those buyers to eventually come in there and try and negotiate you down. Likewise, if you're looking for a really quick sale and we list your home at $325,000 for this example, then you have a greater chance of going into multiple offers and having people compete for that property. So you have two different ends of the spectrum and you got to choose which end you want to be on. Are you looking for something that's going to be quick and efficient and get you that equity so you can move on, or are you looking to sit on the market for a while just to test it out? And more than likely, I would say most sellers in this market are not wanting to wait around for too long of a period of time. And like I said, those updates are extremely important. If you think your home is not ready, or even if maybe you think your home is ready to go onto the market, get with a listing agent. Give me a call. We'll get together and we'll put together a plan. We'll say, hey, look, compared to these other properties, this is what has sold in the past 3 months. This is what has sold in the past 6 months. Take a look at the things that they had. Did they have brand new landscaping? Did they have a kitchen that had a wow factor? Did they have a bathroom with a walk-in shower that so many people look for in today's market? If your home doesn't have those, take those into consideration. Don't just assume that because the inventory is low, those buyers are going to overlook those things. The buyers are still very, very savvy, and they will wait if they don't have the items they're looking for. And I also don't want my sellers to spend a lot of money on upgrades that they think is going to help market their property. Sometimes looking at making those upgrades can be quite costly and the return is just not going to be there. So if you're looking at making an upgrade before you list your home, get with me. Let's talk about it. Let's go over what the return rate is. And I have a video coming up on that next week. So if you're looking to sell, give me a call now or take a look at the video that's happening next week and we'll dive into what those upgrades can do for you. So let's dive in really quick if you're in the Dayton market and talk about some of the suburbs that are heating up and some of those suburbs that are maybe cooling down and what changes are happening and what's affecting those changes. Right off the bat, I see a lot of my buyers that are making moves from county to county based off of property taxes, income taxes, and affordability. Overall, the Greater Dayton area has affordability index that far exceeds any other place in the country. Living here is very, very reasonable and you can get a lot of bang for your buck. If you're relocating here from out of state, this is very evident. I see it happen all the time when people move here from New York, Florida, Texas, California. They come here and they see the properties and they go, I can afford this much house here in Dayton. This is fantastic. This is why so many of my military buyers, when they are relocated here, when they're still active in the military, when they retire, a lot of times they actually come back to Dayton, Ohio. And the reason being, first of all, they love the community, they love the seasons, and they love the affordability factor. So some of our areas right now that are heating up, we see a lot of competition in Kettering, Ohio, and also in Centerville, Ohio, and Bellbrook. These are 3 suburbs that are south of downtown Dayton, and they're seeing tremendous activity. Kettering especially because Kettering is landlocked. Kettering doesn't have new construction competition. So if someone's looking to live in Kettering, Ohio, they're looking at resale homes, and there's only a limited supply. Same thing in Centerville. We do still see some new construction in Centerville, but not quite as much as we have in the past, so a lot of resale is still very, very active. Now, on the flip side of things, as we go over into Greene County, into areas such as Sugar Creek and Bellbrook and Beavercreek, we are seeing a lot of new construction that is kind of taking over the market. And this is a great thing. We need more inventory. New construction has not kept up with the demand over the past 5 years, so it's always going to be a great incentive. If you're looking to move, we're seeing a lot of buyers consider new construction, and that's if they have the time to do so. New construction can get you into the property that you want, have all the finishes that you want, and many times those buyers can get lower interest rates through the builder. And the reason they do that is the builders have tremendous overhead, especially our production builders. And so they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month just to keep up with the demand, keep up with their inventory, and all of their carrying costs. So they would much rather pay that lender for a rate buy down to get you into that home at a lower rate so that they can take the inventory off their shelves and make that your new home. So that's just something to consider. Now, what we're also seeing right now is a tremendous move to condos, townhomes, and one-level properties. These are people that, for various reasons, are looking for an easy lifestyle. Ranches have the largest pool of buyers out there. So if you are looking to move within the Greater Dayton area and you have a ranch, you've got a great product on your hand. If you're looking to buy a ranch, there's going to be a lot of competition, especially if that ranch is in an association or a condo. So those are going to be some of our highest moving properties in the area, and that's what continues to drive the market, especially as we have first-time home buyers coming in, looking at a various supply of properties, and maybe those empty nesters or somebody that's looking for a smaller home. They're looking to downsize, or they're looking for something all on one level because they can't do the stairs anymore. They are going after those ranches like hotcakes. Is that a Midwestern term? If it is, we can talk about that later. Drop me a comment. But that is where the market is moving. So, stay tuned. So at the end of the day, what does this mean? Are we going to see a shift? Are we going to see things change here in the Greater Dayton area when it comes to the real estate market? If you go on to the national headlines, you watch the news late at night, first of all, I would advise you not to do that if this is what you're doing it for. But there is a shift that is happening across the country. It happens usually on the east and west coast. Did I do that right? East and west coast. And then it works its way in. Here in the Midwest, we're fairly insulated. Even during the market shift of 2008 and 2009, we had a dramatic change in affordability and prices, but nowhere near what these larger metropolitan areas or the east and west coast have had that affected them so terribly. So even when markets start to shift, we don't have the dramatic shift here in the area. So those people that are looking to move within the Midwest, especially here in the Greater Dayton area, that say, you know what, I think I'm just going to hold off because I think the market's going to crash. I'm here to tell you, I don't see that happening. And as long as the inventory remains low and the buyer demand remains high, a crash is not something that is baked into the future. Now, nobody can predict the future, so that's something that we have to look at month by month by month. But I can tell you right now, after doing this for 20 years, I don't foresee that anywhere on the horizon. Now, also interest rates. We've talked about this before. I'm going to hammer it home again. Those interest rates right now are holding steady. Everything tells us they probably will for quite some time. And if you're waiting for those rates to drop even half a percentage point, you're putting yourself in jeopardy by exposing yourself to greater competition to buy a home and then potentially paying a lot more for that house that you saw today in 3 months. So take that into consideration. There are a lot of factors. This is why I do seller and buyer consultations. If you're looking to buy a property and you just want to learn more about the process, what's the market's doing, I do a buyer's consultation. Every realtor should be doing this. I sit down with the clients, typically in my office. If they can't come to the office, I can go to wherever they currently live. We can meet over coffee, we can have lunch, and we talk about what the forecast is looking like, what their needs are, and develop a plan that suits them and helps them achieve their goal. Likewise for sellers. Just because you're not looking to sell right away, maybe something is holding you back, maybe a job relocation or something, and you're not looking to move until the fall or even the spring, I can tell you we can put together a plan now. I'm an open book. Just because your home is not going into the market in the next few weeks doesn't mean that we don't have conversations on a regular basis talking about the market and talking about how it affects your property. I have clients right now that are not moving until they retire, and that's not going to be until 2026, but I've been working with them on a pretty regular basis since spring of 2025. That's dedication. And lastly, as we wrap up, we have a lot of economic conditions here in the Greater Dayton area that keep us a really stable real estate market. If you're from the area, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is something that you probably hear on a regular basis. And even if you don't live in the area, you probably know where Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is. It's one of the largest civilian Air Force bases in the country. And so we have people that are coming and going, relocating here on a regular basis all the time, regardless of economic conditions and changes and what else is happening around the country. That keeps our inventory and our real estate market moving at a really steady pace. So when other areas that don't have that sort of huge impact see shifts, we don't have that quite as much. Plus, we have a huge technology sector here. We have GE Aviation that's right here in Dayton, Ohio. We have the Space Force that's always innovating here in the area. So there's a lot of technology and a lot of talent that comes right here to Dayton, Ohio that keeps everything moving on an economic level and on a real estate level. So I hope you found this video informative. Once again, my name is David Moyer. I'm here in Dayton, Ohio. I am a lifelong real estate agent. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I'm here to educate you and tell you more about what the market's doing, what it could be doing, and how it compares to what it's done in the past. You want to do a deeper dive? Give me a call, like, subscribe, follow me around. You can find all my socials on the bio. And if you have a specific question you would love for me to answer, feel free to email me, text me, or just drop it here in the comments. I guarantee you the question you have may be something that somebody else has already been thinking about, but maybe they're too afraid to ask. So by asking it in the comments and allowing me to answer and follow up, what a great way to form a community here in Dayton, right? And when the community is stronger, the real estate market is stronger. When the real estate market is stronger, Dayton is stronger. Thanks for watching.